Things Americans do that are considered rude or inappropriate here in England. Stopping by someone's house uninvited or unannounced. I find this very strange because I grew up in a household, I had a really, really big family. And so there's always people stopping by all the time. And it was very rare that they would let you know ahead of time that they were coming over. It was very often that someone would just pop over if they were, out and about on a Saturday or Sunday just to say hello and see how everyone is doing. We always had an open door policy, and I personally always have an open door policy. Anyone can come by at any time. I consider that to be good hospitality based on my experiences. But here in the UK, it's actually considered kind of rude. You don't just show up at someone's house unannounced. If you are coming over, you have to at least call ahead and let them know, or have it. Many people have it planned, like pre-planned ahead of time. Even with their family, you have to kind of give them the heads up. To me, that's just strange because it's not what I'm used to and it's not how I was brought up. Um, but yeah, it's definitely considered something that is very rude if you just show up at someone's house here in England. Complaining in a restaurant. Again, I come from a culture in America where the customer is always right, and the more you complain, the more you get. Whether it be for free or whether it be something that you just kind of get replaced, like food replaced or something like that, or you get an upgrade or something just by complaining. Here in England, it's really frowned upon to complain when you're in a restaurant. It's considered just bad form. I think it comes from that sense of community type of thing. Like these people are working hard to serve you, to prepare food for you, and you can't be rude. You can't complain. There is a kind of unspoken line that if you cross, obviously, if they get an order wrong or something, you can say something. You don't send food back and you don't really say anything to try to get a replacement meal or something like that. Just expect that the service is probably going to be slow. Because if you remember that a lot of places outside of America don't have a tipping culture. So they're paid a salary and it is their job. So they're going to go at the pace that works for them. But if you complain about it, it's definitely considered bad form. For the most part, you kind of just shut up and deal with it, which is extremely different from what you do in America. The next thing is getting too personal. This is kind of a fine line because you want to be friendly, particularly people you're working with or you're doing an activity with. There's always a level that you want to be a little bit friendly, and you want to kind of start to create that rapport because you don't want to come off as rude or disrespectful here in England. However, if you get too personal, that is a huge, huge no-no. If you ask too much about their family, if you too involved in a specific something that's happening in their life, like if someone's having a baby or someone's having an issue with their kid or their parent, and you start asking too many questions or inquiring about how that's going too often, it can be considered extremely rude, and because you're considered to be prying at that point. And it is a tough line to find for someone that is just genuinely trying to, build a rapport and be friendly and that kind of stuff. Knowing where that line is, not going up in the culture of where the line usually is. It is something that I've gotten caught on a couple times, and people have been like, okay, she's a little bit too in my shit. Just be aware that a lot of times things that might be okay to talk about and okay to push and ask questions about in America will definitely be way too much personal information, particularly if you're in some kind of work setting or a setting where you're not as familiar with the people and you're not as friendly with the people outside of that setting. The next thing is when you get too touchy feely. British people are actually very affectionate and very passionate about things that they love. When it comes to their sports, when it comes to their cultures, when it comes to their families, they're really, really passionate about it. But they express it in a very different way, and it's almost in its understood, unspoken kind of way. And they do not like being very touchy feely. Like you don't give hugs a lot to people. You don't kiss people on the cheek a lot. You wouldn't put your arm around someone a lot. It's considered very just too familiar in most cases. There are people that I have been friends with here in England for years and years, and they still get uncomfortable when I give them a hug, hello, or goodbye, or something like that. It's just something they're not used to. They don't do it a lot here in England. It is considered to be just too much. Too much touchy feely is not a good thing here in England. Being really loud a lot. Americans are loud. This is something I still get caught on all the time, no matter what. I'm just a loud person, and I am constantly being told why. Or yeah, you could definitely tell you're American. I don't know if it's just for there's so many people and there's so many different kinds of people, and you're just used to like being in a loud, boisterous setting. I don't know what it is, but Americans do tend to be much louder. I since I've been here for a little bit, I can now tell when someone is American or at least not living here or from here. It is very obvious now that I've like gotten a little more used to the culture and everything. Here in England, you are typically not that loud, uh, barring a few exceptions, like at a sporting event, like a football game, definitely loud. In a pub when you're watching England play any sporting event or any England representation, it'll get really loud and things like that. But those are very specific instances where it'll get loud. It's not going to get loud on the streets a lot. You're not even going to get loud really in restaurants or anything like that. It's not like that here at all in England. The next thing is not saying your pleases and thank yous. Minding your P's and Q's is really important here in England. Um, it comes with the culture of just trying to be as polite as possible. Y'all are very much more polite than Americans are on a whole. Americans kind of have this fake way of being polite where they definitely don't mean it. They just want to have a persona of some kind that they're trying to project. In England, it's not always that they mean it, but it's not in a way where they're trying to push the persona necessarily, or they're trying to be in a fake in any way. It's more about just kind of keeping the community calm, avoiding conflict, and just kind of keeping the temperature down on a lot of things. Don't get me wrong, there are several things that people get very passionate about here in England, but overall, if they don't feel like it's worth the conflict or they feel like it's worth the hassle, they'll just kind of try to get out of it and avoid it by being polite and saying pleases and thank yous. And it really, really bothers people when you're not polite here. If you don't hold the door, if you don't, say thank you, if you don't say sorry when you're getting bumped into, even if you're not the one that got bumped into, it's just polite here and considered good form for you to say sorry, even when it's not necessarily your fault, just to kind of keep everything at an even level. Very stark difference in culture, whereas in America, you are just out to do what you need to do and get your stuff done. And there's not always a conscious effort to make the community or the environment that you're in conducive to everyone around you, more that it's comfortable for you only. And I think that's just a stark difference between the cultures of America and England. Lastly, this is something that Americans do all the time, and I have to admit I've done many, many times myself. Jumping the line or the queue is what they call it here in England. Especially when I would drive a lot, I would not wait in line. There was an exit that was really long or something, and there was a way I could get around it, I would. Um, and I would definitely cut my way in and be more aggressive about things like that in America. Here, it's almost sacrilege. Like, it's almost it's really, really, really awful for you to do it. People get on your case immediately. You will, if you want to ever disrupt the community in any way, jump a line, and everybody will get on you in a moment without even thinking. Even if you're doing it, not on purpose. I remember when we were in Scotland, we were going to the store that my daughter really wanted to go into, and the line formed just outside the door, but it was off like to around a corner a little bit and I couldn't really see it. So we got online at the door thinking that was the end of the line, and everyone jumped on us like immediately saying, "Hey, the line is back there. What are you doing?" And it wasn't on purpose. I didn't realize that the line had gone all the way down around the corner, and they were just kind of keeping it open to keep the sidewalk clear and things like that. So and I got ripped. But I really didn't know. But even if you don't know, and there's it's not, that's one thing they're not going to be polite about. In America, they would be like, "Hey, back of the line's over there." And they might give you like a warning almost shot. If you're still being obnoxious about it, then they'll get loud. Here, it's the exact opposite. They will get on you right away, whether you meant it or not, and they will make sure you know that you did something wrong. And everybody in the line will give you dirty looks and will make sure that you do not get in front of anyone that you shouldn't be in front of. There you have it, guys. There are some things that are done in America that are considered okay and part of the community that are considered extremely, extremely rude here in England. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like that video and you want to see some more, hit the subscribe button. But if not, no big deal. I appreciate the view and you checking us out, and I hope I can see you again in a future video. Bye.